remember saying to myself, you know, what the hell? How many more could there possibly be?
These are the Khalers. Among their friends, they were considered the embodiment of the quintessential all-American family. Residing in a spacious house in Weatherford, Texas, they were a tight-knit group spanning 3 generations, always sharing laughter and cherished moments. However, one fateful day, their idyllic existence was shattered, leaving only 2 survivors among the once large family. The response from law enforcement to their distressing 911 calls was regrettably delayed. The baffling question loomed: who could harbor such sinister intentions towards this content and seemingly happy family on Thanksgiving afternoon? Why would a family as cheerful as the Khalers have any adversaries? As detectives delved into the case, they unraveled a narrative of jaw-dropping jealousy, profound insecurities, and shocking lapses in judgment. This is the comprehensive account of the Khalers family. It was Thanksgiving Day in 2009, and the Khalers family had assembled for a dinner at Grandma Dorothy's farmhouse. The family now consisted of Karen, her partner, and her 3 children, 2 teenage girls and a 10-year-old boy. This gathering took place shortly after Karen and James Craig's divorce. Sadly, this holiday celebration would culminate in tragedy. Within an hour of the family uniting for the meal, 89-year-old Dorothy dialed 911. The dispatcher's response froze. Dorothy, overwhelmed by fear and helplessness, was in a state of utter panic. She pleaded desperately with the dispatcher, urging them to dispatch assistance immediately. A deranged gunman had invaded her home, unleashing a barrage of gunfire at anyone and anything that dared to move. It's truly heartbreaking, but these were Dorothy's final words. When the first responders arrived at the scene, they discovered her lifeless body sprawled on the kitchen floor.
Her forearm, her abdomen, the amount of blood, that there wasn't anything that I could do for her at that moment.
The officers followed a gruesome, blood-stained trail into the living room, where they discovered Dorothy's granddaughter, Karen, who was 44 years old, in a similarly dire condition.
She was on the floor, on her back. She didn't look like she was breathing or had a pulse.
Following that horrific discovery, they came upon Karen's daughter, 18-year-old Emily. Her lifeless body was found lying beside her mother's, compounding the tragedy that had befallen this once happy family.
She had been shot once in the chest. She either was hiding or fell behind the couch and the coffee table. I remember saying to myself, you know, what the hell? How many more could there possibly be?
Just as the officers were bracing themselves for the possibility of more horror, they heard a faint voice coming from upstairs. A female voice was pleading desperately for help. It turned out to be Karen's other daughter, 16-year-old Lauren, who had been wounded in the back.
Her lower right side was turning purple as I was watching it, so I could see the blood pooling up internally.
Lauren was in a bad state, but she was fighting for her life.
Don't move. I know. Don't move.
I don't want to die.
I'm going to take care of you, okay?
Lauren had just a few more minutes to live with her dying breath, she told the detective who had unveiled her entire family.
She told me, Craig. And I said, who's Craig? She said, my dad.
Karen and James Craig Khaler had been together since college at Kansas State University. Craig was in his last year studying engineering and Karen was a freshman. For years they looked like the perfect couple, beautiful, smart, and ambitious. Within a few years they got married and had a daughter, Emily. In 1999, Craig was offered the job of a utility director in Weatherford, Texas. The pay rise was enormous. The young family could not pass up that opportunity. It was a not only well-paying job, but a well-respected position within the community.
It was a not only well-paying job, but a well-respected position within the community.
So they packed their bags and moved into a much bigger home in Weatherford, close to a Fort Worth. Soon enough they had 2 more children, a second daughter, Lauren, and a Sean's. Immediately they settled into Weatherford. Karen would bake and offer food to all her neighbors, and the kids were friendly, outgoing, and eager to play with all the other kids in the community.
Emily was the firstborn, and she was a smart kid, a pleaser, wanted to do good, kind of like her mom, creative and smart.
Emily would go on to attend St. Louis College of Pharmacy. Lauren was an honors student at Columbia High School.
She was kind of silly, more of a creative, outside-the-box kind of a thinker.
Both girls were active members of an all-girls rock band, showcasing their musical talents by drumming, playing instruments, and singing. Their family, admired by friends and neighbors, seemed to epitomize the American dream. However, as is often the case, the facade of a perfect family can hide the darkest secrets. Karen confided in her sister Lynn about the alarming changes she had witnessed in Craig over the years of their marriage. He had progressively become more controlling, imposing curfews on her and restricting her spending with an allowance. He monitored her every move and insisted on scrutinizing receipts for all her purchases. Additionally, he demanded intimate relations every night at precisely 8 p.m., a demand that left Karen feeling trapped and powerless. It was evident that Karen was no longer in a consensual relationship. She complied with her husband's demands solely to avoid his explosive anger, and fear of Craig was the only reason she had not yet mustered the courage to leave this truly horrifying situation.
If she didn't do what he wanted, bedtime at 9, she would, quote, pay for it.
It was evident that Karen was no longer in a consensual relationship. She complied with her husband's demands solely to avoid his explosive anger, and fear of Craig was the only reason she had not yet mustered the courage to leave this truly horrifying situation.
She found it just easier to go along with, okay, he expects this, so I might as well just do it, so I don't have to pay for it later.
Desperate for freedom and peace of mind, Karen sought new hobbies. She joined a local gym where she would go every day while the kids at school and Craig was at work. Karen was so good and so hardworking she was soon hired as a fitness instructor at the gym. It was a big shift from her original career, and a breath of fresh air from the awful marriage for her. Surprise, Craig did not throw a tantrum when he found out about her new hobby or job. He said she could do whatever she wanted as long as she was home on time to look after the children. And you know what else? It was at the gym that Karen met a fellow personal trainer, Sunny Reese's. Karen and Sunny became best friends overnight, but they soon knew it was much more than that. They were in love.
My theory is Karen was so beaten down for so long. Finally, somebody took an interest in her in a positive way and treated her well.
This was one of those rich, meaningful love stories, not just a fling. Karen knew she had to let her husband know whatever the consequences may be. Worst case scenario, they broke up. Right? It wasn't like Craig seemed too happy with Karen anyway. When Karen told Craig, he encouraged Karen to continue seeing Sunny. Wait, what?
I kind of had a thought in mind of the three of them being involved in a threesome type of situation.
But Craig's fantasy quickly waned.
It seems like it kind of backfired on him.
That's when Craig
reverted to his old pattern of controlling behavior, making it his life's mission to force Karen to end her relationship with Sunny.
He went as far as getting a new job
He went to extreme lengths, even taking on a new job in a new town, Columbia, Missouri, where he became the highest paid employee in the city. In June 2008, he uprooted his entire family, relocating them to a new house in Columbia, putting 700 miles between Karen and Sunny in a desperate attempt to break their bond. However, this physical separation did not succeed in ending their relationship. Karen and Sunny persisted in their connection, exchanging texts and calls, composing lengthy emails, and making halfway visits whenever possible. Their relationship, almost like a forbidden teenage romance, only grew stronger in the face of Craig's controlling presence. Needless to say, Karen's marriage had disintegrated entirely. Karen and her family celebrated New Year's 2009 back in Weatherford, and Sunny was also present. Their relationship was no longer a secret, even Karen's teenage daughters were aware of it. Anyone observing them that night could see the intense connection between Karen and Sunny. This fueled Craig's frustration. After the party, a heated argument ensued, lasting throughout the night. At one point, Craig pushed Karen, causing her to hit her head on the street. That night, Karen genuinely feared for her life. A few days later, she served him with divorce papers and moved into the spare room of the house, hoping for some semblance of safety from her enraged husband. Craig relentlessly called Karen's family, oscillating between pleading with them to convince Karen to return and launching smear campaigns against her. He resorted to name-calling, accusing her of having a lesbian affair and claiming that she intended to take all his money and children. When he wasn't harassing Karen's family, he directed his rage at Karen herself. The situation became so dire that Sonny ultimately sent him an email, attempting to reason with him. You can't force, threaten, or humiliate Karen like you did yesterday and expect her to love you for it. She is only staying with you because she believes that right now, it is best for the kids. She doesn't love you, Craig, not like you think she does.
Over time, it has become apparent that Craig is controlling. I have learned along the way that he is capable of using force. The issues vary, but I figured out how to keep things from becoming ugly. When money was a problem, I wouldn't tell him what things, groceries, clothing, etc., cost. When it was about sex, I decided it was easier to give him what he wanted every night than to refuse. On occasions I would refuse, he has been known to be forceful and mean. I'm afraid it will escalate so far that someone is going to be seriously hurt.
In March, after another physical altercation occurred, Karen contacted law enforcement and had Craig arrested. In her statement, she mentioned the incident. It's truly disturbing that Karen endured non-consensual acts for such an extended period. Even in a marriage with children, the need for mutual consent remains paramount. Craig's behavior was monstrous, and Karen persevered, initially believing that her children would benefit from a stable family life. However, this stability had disintegrated. In fact, many psychologists concur that witnessing violent parental conflicts can be more traumatizing for children than growing up with a single parent. Karen decided to press charges and moved out of the family home with her children. Following this, Craig severed ties with his teenage daughters, refusing to see or discuss them, focusing solely on his son, Sean. Emily and Lauren were relieved to escape the toxic environment and wholeheartedly supported their mother's relationship with Sonny. Craig's response was to insultingly refer to his daughters as rotting corpses. Simultaneously, he engaged in stalking behavior towards his ex-wife, even breaking into her home to tamper with her emails and install cameras. When Karen discovered her slashed car tires, she promptly contacted 911 and reported Craig. In the summer of 2009, Craig's behavior grew increasingly erratic. He exhibited volatility at work, becoming easily agitated, repetitively showing his colleagues family photos, and abruptly leaving work, presumably to spy on Karen during her work hours. In September 2009, Craig lost his job and received 2 months' worth of salary as severance pay. Given his recent troubled history, it seemed unlikely that he would secure a decent job in the near future. As a result, he made the difficult decision to move back in with his parents, a situation that represented a low point in his life. On Saturday, November 29, 2009, Karen and her children gathered at Grandma Dorothy's house to celebrate Thanksgiving. Earlier that day, Dorothy had driven from her farmhouse in Kansas to Craig's home to pick up her 10-year-old grandson, Sean. Sean had spent Friday with his dad, but he was scheduled to spend Saturday with his mom. That evening, the emergency services received a chilling and distressing call. When the officers arrived at the scene, they were met with a horrifying sight. Karen, Dorothy, and Emily had tragically lost their lives. Lauren, severely injured, managed to utter a few words before succumbing to her injuries. She conveyed that her dad, Craig, was responsible for the violence. Meanwhile, Sean, in tears, had sought refuge on a neighbor's doorstep and urgently implored them to call 911. When the first responders spoke to Sean, he confirmed that Craig was the assailant. Sean had been busy cleaning some coins when he witnessed his father entering Dorothy's house with a rifle. Craig's demeanor was chilling, with cold and evil eyes, and he made no attempt to connect with his family. It became evident that he intended to harm them all on that fateful day. Sean knew he had to flee, realizing that he couldn't protect his family. Within minutes, an alert was issued for Craig's arrest. It was during this search that someone noticed a man abandoning his truck in an isolated area and fleeing down a deserted road. Subsequent investigation confirmed that the vehicle belonged to Craig. When officers searched the truck, they discovered a significant amount of ammunition, an unopened bottle of anxiety medication, a backpack containing cleaning supplies, and canned food.
The biggest thing for me, and that I still have no answer for, is how a father can do that to his children. He literally had to chase one of his daughters through the house.
8 hours after the gruesome discovery of the crime scene, at 7 a.m., Craig was finally apprehended. When he saw the officers, he appeared lost and disheveled. He took the initiative to approach them and admitted, "I'm the guy you're looking for." At this point, it seemed that he simply wanted it all to be over. Initially, his plan had been to escape, which explained the presence of the cleaning supplies and food in his possession. He had also carried hundreds of dollars in cash, gloves, a flashlight, and a hunting bag. However, after committing the heinous act, he quickly realized that he couldn't carry out his getaway plan. Consequently, he was promptly arrested and charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder.
Doesn't look really very good, as you, I'm sure, can well understand. And I'm just obviously it's the son connection. I said, I'm just so happy there's something you wanted to try. Just don't want to lose you in the process. Just be careful. Right. Just trying to be nice.
Craig provided an explanation for his obsession with Karen's affair with Sonny, but notably avoided addressing his controlling nature and years of pushing Karen away before the affair took place. His defense argued that a combination of factors, including losing his wife to an affair, losing his job, and having to move back in with his parents, had pushed him into a state of mental illness. They pointed to the unopened anxiety medication found in his car and the fact that he didn't attempt to flee or cover up his actions that night as evidence supporting their claim. The defense's last argument was that Craig had snapped on that particular night, emphasizing that it was not a premeditated act. They argued that he was so mentally unwell that he didn't realize what he was doing until the moment he was doing it. Craig had been diagnosed with depression, anxiety, OCD, narcissistic personality disorder, and histrionic personality disorder, and the defense contended that these diagnoses explained his prior behavior in his marriage. His controlling tendencies, disregard for Karen's wishes and needs, and obsession with order and repetition could all be attributed to these disorders. However, the prosecution countered that Craig's long-term behavior, not just his final actions, demonstrated a pattern of premeditation. Expert psychologists testified that Craig did not suffer from depression and other mental illnesses to the extent that he could not discern right from wrong. Another piece of evidence against his insanity plea was the deliberate act of saving Sean's life, which indicated a conscious decision on his part. Despite his age and the unimaginable trauma he had endured, 12-year-old Sean testified against his father. While it's difficult to fathom how he must have felt, Sean remained clear, calm, and concise in his testimony. Sonny also testified, confirming years of mistreatment by Craig toward Karen and asserting that Craig initially accepted his wife's affair before changing his mind. In the end, James Craig Khalers was found guilty on all 4 counts, as his pleas of insanity were rejected by the court.
Khalers showed no emotion today as he heard his fate. The execution sentence comes as retribution for the shooting deaths of 4 family members.
Not only did Craig fail to speak or apologize for his actions, but he also requested to leave the room and avoid listening to the victims' impact statements. In response to this request, the judge ordered him to remain in the courtroom, ensuring that he would hear the statements from the victims and their loved ones.
I loved Grandma White, Karen, Emily, and Lauren very much, and will miss them until the end of my days.
From death row, Craig wrote several letters to officials in which he disturbingly expressed a sense of relief after taking the lives of his family. Shockingly, he still exhibited no remorse for his actions. In his warped perspective, he believed he had freed his son, Sean, from Karen's relationship with Sonny. It's a tragic irony that Sean will forever have to carry the memory of losing his entire family at the hands of his demented father, yet his father continues to show no understanding of the profound harm he inflicted. As of 2023, Craig persists in attempting to appeal his sentence, but all of his appeals have been consistently rejected. Sean, on the other hand, has grown up with his grandparents, graduated from high school, and is now working in Kansas, moving forward with his life despite the immense trauma he has endured. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, press the bell button, like the video, and write your opinions in the description. See you guys in the next video.